entrepreneurship is the opportunity to work a little harder and a little smarter than other people for a short amount of time in order to create a life that other people only get to dream about. And it really is like that if you do it properly.
Hoppy and Poppie PinkCheeks is a brand that teaches young children emotional intelligence. We also give a lot of tips and tools and education to parents on how to role model emotional intelligence in the home.
We want to solve problems for men. This is a brand for men and about men. We want to equip you to go out into the world and win.
I'm Richard Gearhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart.
And you just heard a few selections from our guests tonight, so stay tuned to Passage to Profit for more. I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney.
I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I work at Gearhart Law, owned by Richard Gearhart.
And welcome to Passage to Profit, everybody, the show that's about entrepreneurs, startups, innovators, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Tonight, we have an extraordinary guest, Eric Edmeades, and he is absolutely marvelous speaker, entrepreneur, and you're absolutely going to be wowed by what he has to say.
And then we have two incredible presenters. We have Renee Adams with Hoppy, Poppie, and if your kid is struggling, because all kids do when they're trying to figure out their way in the world, she has wonderful tools to help. And also, after her, we have Bryan Rhode with ACUMEN. Men, how does your shirt look right now? If it doesn't look good, Bryan's going
to help you with that one. So that's absolutely fantastic. So, but before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. So who is IP in the news about tonight?
Well, it's about a guy who's a football player who's not quite wealthy enough, or maybe he just wants to have fun on the side. So he's starting his own clothing line, it looks like, and he got a trademark on one of his signature moves.
So what's the big deal with that?
Well, Matt Judon, who used to be on the Ravens, just signed with the Patriots for a 4-year, $26 million contract.
Pocket change to us at Passage to Profit, right?
But he's known for his dancing when he does a good tackle on the field.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that happen at football games a lot.
So he came up with this really cool design picture that kind of reflects his dance move, one of his dance moves, and he applied for a trademark for it to put it on apparel and things.
And I have to say, in all my years as a trademark lawyer, patent lawyer, I cannot think of one time where somebody has ever tried to trademark a dance move. So, or at least, or even an image of a dance move. So I think that's a pretty creative approach. And I would imagine that the trademark is part of the branding for this, right? Because he can say, I've got my trademarked dance move.
Absolutely. And he's very popular with a lot of his fans. So yep. I'm sure he'll do well with it. So congratulations to you.
Yep, absolutely. And so now it's time for Richard's Roundtable. And I'd like to invite our distinguished guests to comment on what they just heard, or you can ask a general question about intellectual property. So first to Eric. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. I love intellectual property conversations, so it's going to be fun.
Okay.
Well, that makes you somewhat unique.
I think that, I was going to say, you fall into a special category.
Yeah, I was dropped, I think. But the first thing I'd say is that Zumba did patent what it would be an abstract dance move and turned it into a part of $1 billion brand that people have literally tattooed onto their bodies, which I think is always a good mark of a well-developed brand. Ink it onto themselves. But then also, Michael Jordan didn't tattoo. Nike and Air Jordan didn't tattoo a patented dance move. They patented a jumping, leaping through the air, and did incredibly well. Then turned it into one of the most recognized brands in the world. And then I just want to offer you one thought, because it sounds like you're a little jaded. Like, he makes enough money anyway. Why does he need another patent? But I would just say this. Or copyright is, I suppose, what we're really talking about. But I would just say that I remember there was a point where Disney was going to lose their copyright protection on Mickey.
Right.
And then they were defending it. And I was like, come on, how much money do you need that mouse to make you? And then I saw an interview where they described it like this. Children are buying toys and t-shirts and things with that mouse on it because of the trust that we've created over the last 50 years. And if we allow that trademark to expire, then everybody is going to use it and trade upon our trust and sell bad quality, potentially even dangerous things to children. And so we must protect the trust that we created with the. And I have to say, it's well spun, but I can see
Still kind of
that
about
argument.
the money, right? So, but
no,
I,
but that's
I
true.
agree. I agree with that. That's why the whole trademark system exists. Trademarks are actually brand identifiers and source identifiers. So if you buy Coca-Cola, you know that it came from the Coca-Cola bottling company and that it's going to taste a certain way, and nobody else can sell things under that brand. So and that's it. It really is for the public's protection as well as the owner's protection, the trademark owner's protection. So very well said, Eric.
Yeah, that was great.
Renee, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question about the trademark for Matt's dance move. It's a single image, is that right? So it's a design mark?
Yeah, it's a single image and it is a design mark. Absolutely. It sounds like you know a little bit about trademarks. So yeah, it's just a single move that he has trademarked. And if you wanted, he has a lot of moves, right? So he would have to file a lot of trademark applications if he wanted to cover each one. But he has sort of a signature move where he leans back, points his head into the sky, and puts his hand on his forehead. So it is kind of a trademark move, and he captured it in a drawing. So
Okay, I think that's super cool. I have not heard of any other trademark, as you have already said, like that. So I cannot wait to see it, and I'm interested to follow this story and find out like who licenses the image, whether it's going to be tattooed a tattoo shop or yeah, certainly it's got a lot of potential. I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, so what a smart guy, right? To take his brand right now where he's super popular and turn it into trademark items with his own trademark brand on it. So his brand will live for a while, we hope.
yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Bryan, what are your thoughts?
I actually have a question. So there are other players, particularly in the NFL, have sort of a signature celebration or a signature dance. And oftentimes you'll see the other team, when that player doesn't do well or his team doesn't do well, they'll mock that dance or mock that move. So it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but could he actually sue anybody that mocks his signature dance moves for infringement?
No, unfortunately.
You'd have to be pretty creative with the lawsuit. I mean, you could maybe do something. Would he do it? Would the NFL let him do it? I don't know, but that's a great legal question, and who knows? Maybe somebody will try it someday. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, so this particular trademark is for a class of goods, which is clothing. So you get a trademark in a different class. So if he had a class that addressed that, then
you could file
right?
it in a class for entertainment, and then if the other player's image showed up on film, and you might conceivably try to enforce that.
Usually they get a flag for taunting, though, right?
That may be the remedy. Flag for taunting.
Taunting.
Well, that reminds me of Eric's story about carrying around the referee cards, so yellow and red cards. Maybe he'll tell us about that later in the show.
Yeah, if you have not watched Eric's video, if you go on his website, you can download this video. You have to give him your email, which is fine, but you get this video, and it is a powerful video. We watched it this morning. Amazing stuff. So.
But before we get to that, we have to take a commercial break. So you're listening to Passage to Profit, and we'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. We're here with Eric Edmeades, our super special guest. He's an entrepreneur, business speaker, adventurer, and founder of WildFit and Business Freedom Academy. So welcome to the show, Eric. Such a great pleasure to have you with us.
I'm glad. I've already had fun. I'm really glad. I'm really happy.
So tell us about what you do. It seems like you do so many different things. And so what are you up to these days?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest passion is I feel like in my early 20s, I gave myself a series of gifts. And one of those gifts was overcoming my fears of public speaking. Another one of those gifts was achieving a level of financial independence through business ownership, becoming an entrepreneur, that sort of thing. But the biggest gift I gave myself was a rational and solid relationship with food and food psychology. And so I got to a point about 10 years ago where I was sort of tired of my normal, I'd been involved in, I started a mobile computing company and I sold that. And then I bought a special effects company in Northern California and we worked on Avatar and Pirates of the Caribbean and did great stuff. But I got tired of sitting at a desk and really realized my high school dream of becoming a teacher. And so I started at that point teaching my three gifts to the world, and under Business Freedom, where we teach entrepreneurship, but under my real passion and my real baby is WildFit, where we teach food psychology and nutrition. And we've now served over 50,000 people in 130 countries around the world, and I just it's the thing I'm most proud of in my life, other than my children.
Wow, that's amazing. Can I ask what is it about food psychology that you've discovered and you bring to people?
So when in my 20s, I was dealing with a bunch of health problems, and and I'd seen every doctor and specialist. And one day, I just, some friends of mine sat me down. I went to a business seminar, but they talked a little bit about food relative to energy and this kind of stuff. And so for the next 30 days, I experimented with some stuff, and all of a sudden, every symptom that I'd been suffering with for years were gone. Like in 30 days, I'd lost 35 pounds. I no longer required surgery. Like everything changed. And then I sat down with one of my doctors and said, I'm 21 and I look about 15. And I asked my doctor how long he went to medical school, which I got to be the first patient to ask him that question, and like a kid. And then he says 6 years. And I said, well, how much of that 6 years did you spend studying food and nutrition? And he said, shockingly, none. And I was struck by that, and I was struck by the fact that somebody could get a medical degree and not study food. That's like, I wouldn't take my car to a mechanic who hadn't studied oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
So I discovered, I dug deep into food at that point, and I turned my life around. But then my friends came to me and go, holy crap, you look amazing. How can I do that? And I would give them the rules, but they wouldn't follow them. As we know, I mean, the average person that goes on a diet gains 3 pounds every time they go on a diet. The diet industry doesn't work. And that's because they don't address the psychology of it. And so I started doing a deep dive into the way the psychology of it works. And when you do that, you remove the need for willpower. If somebody wants to eat ice cream, it doesn't matter what diet you put them on, as long as they still want to eat it, they're going to eat it. They're going to have a really good day and celebrate and eat it, or they're going to have a bad day and celebrate and eat it, depending on how they're brought up. And so if you can change that psychology, then you remove the need for willpower and you allow people to make proper lifestyle change instead of trying to chuck them on a diet.
Okay, sign me up. Do you coach people on this? I mean, how do people find out?
I originally coached people. I was living in Turks and Caicos at the time, and so I couldn't really, I did it online with Google Hangouts, and very quickly I couldn't keep up with the demand. So then I recorded the program into a video training program. And so now we have 400 coaches around the world, and we have a video training program so people can do it with a coach or without a coach or in a class. We have a big class coming up on January 24th, because by January 24th, everybody realizes that their New Year's resolutions didn't stick again. And now we can show them that they don't need to make them stick, that we can help them stick.
So what is your success rate with people? Do you know?
There's a bunch of different ways to measure success rates. If you look at the success rate of any video training program, most video training programs are fully consumed by less than 5% of the people who buy them. Mm-hmm. So people buy the video training program, and less than 5% of the people will complete that. And we have an 85% completion rate of a 90-day video training program. That in itself is industry changing. And then if you poll the people after they've done the program, about 85% of our clients will tell them that it was life altering for them and worked. And the crazy thing is that the other 15% will tell you that it helped improve their relationship with food and they definitely got benefit from it, but it maybe didn't do everything for them that they wanted. That's about the ratio that we have. What really is shocking to me is I originally started it for my business clients as how to improve your cognition and energy and not fall asleep at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It now happens every single day that people write to me with where their doctors have removed them from their diabetic medication, their hypertension medication, their antidepressants. When you solve somebody's relationship with food, you improve every aspect of their life.
So how do you do it? I mean, what is the secret sauce?
There's a bunch. It's a very complicated thing because there are many different things, but I'm going to give you one of the most powerful principles. Your emotions are heavily outdated. Your emotions evolved for life on the savannah. And so now we are being convoluted and bombarded by advertising and social media and manipulative campaigns and what have you. And so our emotions are very confused. And so one of the challenges is that emotions are designed to either pull you towards something or push you away from something. And so, in nature, I found honey in this tree. I ate that. I felt good about it. I want to remember where that tree is. Emotions are also designed as a trigger for memory. If you have an experience with no emotion, you won't remember it. But if you have an experience with an intense positive or negative emotion, you're more likely to remember it, to the point that too much emotion might even cause sort of a post-traumatic stress problem. So now if you think about that, emotions are so very important. Well, the vast majority of the food that people in America eat, they eat to address an emotional problem. They don't eat it for nutrition. In fact, most of the food we eat is so devoid of nutrition these days that it's a wonder half of us are alive. Right. And so one of the ways to fix it is here's a very practical example. People will often address a negative emotion with a certain type of food. So if you poll an audience, I'll be in front of 5,000 people and I'll say, how can you cure loneliness? I'll tell you right now, the answer is chocolate. Everybody will tell you chocolate can cure that feeling of emptiness and loneliness and lack of connection and love. So what that means is that you've got a person sitting in their house feeling a sense of loneliness, and they turn to chocolate. And in that moment, chocolate's going to distract them. They're using it as a drug, frankly, and it's going to distract them. But what they don't understand is that that chocolate is so full of calories and sugar that their body sees it initially as a good thing, because energy was so scarce for our ancestors. The body goes, holy crap, and rewards you with a flood of dopamine. So in that moment, you actually do solve the problem. But here's the real difficulty. Your neurology learns, your psychology learns that the path to the high calorie treat that you just got is through your sadness and depression. And so it will trigger sadness and depression in order for you to get that reward. So practical example, I had my whole family around for the holidays last year, and one by one, they all left to go to their different places. And I was left, and my daughter went to go be with her mom, and I'm now on my own in my house. When I'd had, no kidding, 7 women and girls in the house. It had been the oxytocin, estrogen house of fun. And then they're all gone. And now I'm alone, and it's a Sunday. And I'm feeling a little depressed, and I'm like, oh, there's this smoothie I make, and it's almond butter and dates and vanilla powder and a little cinnamon. And I suddenly get this feeling, and I see what's going on is my nervous system is learning that, hold on a second, I can distract myself. I suddenly say, no, we do not reward negative emotions with high calorie garbage like that. Even if it's fairly healthy stuff, we don't reward the nervous system like that. And I made a deal with myself. I can only make that smoothie if I have an epic day, if I have a great day. And I'm like, gosh, that's never going to happen. But then I went out and I thought, what would I do on a normally good day? I'd go build sandcastles. I love on the beach, and I love building. So I'm building the sandcastle and I'm hating it. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. But then the tide comes in and it threatens the castle on this side, and I'm building a little bit more. And then my friends come over and they want to tour the castle, and they think it's amazing because it's about 12 feet by 10 feet. And so it's a pretty, and then they invite me for lunch, and we have the most epic day. We laugh for 3 hours under the sun. I walk back in my door and go, now I can have the smoothie, because I'm rewarding my system for having had a great day. And my body will learn in the future, as a result of this, if you want that smoothie, the only way to get there is through having a great day. When people learn these things, they then get to unlearn the stuff that they learned. A coach has a hockey team. The hockey team loses. The kids are all crying in the back or depressed and sad. What does he do? He takes them for pizza, Cokes, and ice cream. They very soon learn that losing the game and being tearful about it is the path to pizza, Cokes, and ice cream. And they wonder why at 45 years old, when they're having a bad day at work, they want to go home and order a pizza, get some Cokes, and have some ice cream.
Eric, I just really love the way you work on helping people change their thinking. And one of the stories that really stuck with me was the one that I mentioned earlier, when you were in England and you decided that you were going to conquer road rage. Can you tell that story again for our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So road rage is, everybody thinks that soccer, they call it football there, but everybody thinks that soccer is like the national sport of Britain. It's not, it's road rage. They're better at it than anybody. It's incredible. And since I wanted to become like a local, I got into the game as well. And I bought myself a car with a very big engine so I could play the game well. And I would go out, and I would have these road rage experiences, and people would cut me off and do something wrong, and I would want to tell them how wrong they were, and like everybody else, get in on the game. And then there was one day where I had a jarring experience where I pulled up at a red light, and a guy pulled up beside me, and he was driving one of these unmarked commercial vans. In Britain, they call this guy White Van Man. It's a commercial van with no phone number, so they drive with complete discourtesy. They're rude as anything because you can never call them. And the guy's looking out the window at me, and he's staring at me with that bullying attitude. And I know what he wants me to do. He wants me to say to him, he wants me to look at him so he can say to me, "What are you looking at?" And then I'm supposed to cower and I'm driving my beautiful little Mazda Miata, my first ever convertible that I bought myself. And he's looking at me, and I'm not going to look at him. I look over, my body does it because I'm feeling stared at. And he, true to form, he says, "What are you looking at?" And I don't know what happened. But I have a bit of a smart mouth sometimes. And my mouth said, "The ugliest bugger I've seen all day." And I fully expected at this point that he was going to get out of the car and beat the hell out of me. And we're at a red light with traffic. There's no crossing at this point. But instead, he has a mass. Honestly, this guy was Neanderthal. I think his mother defrosted him from an ice ice field or something. But he pulled his head back into the car and talks to the other guy, and then he sticks his head back out and he goes, "My brother says he thinks your daddy probably bought you that car." And I don't know what happened, but I responded. I go, "I bet your brother is your daddy." And it's all funny, right? But then the light turned green and I was gone, and I'm terrified and I'm adrenalized. And sure, it's kind of funny or whatever, but the truth is, I got to my next meeting and I was so adrenalized, I was so afraid, I was so negative that it was all over me. And I realized that this game is dangerous. It's like it's unpleasant, and it affects the fear and the anger and all this stuff. And so I fixed it like this. I went and got myself a pair of football cards. Now, the rules of football are different than hockey and American football, soccer that is. And the way they do it, I think more people in America learn this now, but back then nobody knew. But you have a yellow card for a minor infraction, which is just like a warning, but a red card and you get kicked out of the game. And so I decided I'd keep these cards under the visor, and when people cut me off in traffic, I would give them the appropriate card. And so, I thought I'd gamify the whole thing. I'm now the traffic referee is the deal. And so I put the thing under my visor, and I'm driving along, and a guy does a U-turn in front of me. Like, he does a U-turn around me, in front of me, and there's not enough there's not enough space on the other side because of the stop traffic, and ends up stopping cross car in front of me. I have to lock up the brakes to stop. It's clearly a red card offense, right? I mean, it must be. So I unbuckle my seatbelt so I can stand up above the roof panel. And I show him the red card, and he busts out laughing like he's belly laughing. And then I look at all the cars that are beside us who saw the whole thing happen, and they're laughing their asses off. I think they must think they're on candid camera or something because it's so fun. And then the guy in the car does something unique, something I'd never seen before. No matter which finger gestures or no matter which arm gestures I'd ever shown anybody in the past, he apologized. And I realized that what happened that day is that I improved my quality of life, his quality of life, everybody else who watched quality of life. I interrupted the pattern. And what I mean by that is I'm a very big fan of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning. And he said that, basically, paraphrasing, that there's a moment between stimulus and response. And in that moment is where you carve out your freedom as a human being. And when you allow rage to take you over, you've missed that moment. And so what I'm always looking to do with myself, with my coaching clients, is to help them identify what I call Frankl moments. The moment where you can inject your consciousness in before your instinct brain kicks over. And so those cards were a mechanism for slowing everything down and creating a Frankl moment. So I would never cross into the rage and never enter the road rage. And it changed my life.
Well, and this show is about innovation and entrepreneurs. I think this is a really innovative approach to managing your emotions, and something every entrepreneur needs, because you could walk into a meeting with an investor and they could just rip you to pieces, and what's your reaction, right? Or somebody,
Yeah.
I mean, every entrepreneur has somebody tell them that what they're doing is terrible and they should just go back to bed or whatever. And so you need these kind of protections, this kind of system to help yourself. But during the video, I want to bring that back up. And anybody who hasn't gone to Eric Edmeades' website and seen his video, it's on ericedmeades.com. Or Eric, ERIC, Edmeades, EDMEADES.com. Download this video. It's really powerful stuff. I had a question for me. You had a terrible experience, and it would have crushed a normal person. And I don't want to say too much because you say it so much better on the video. But you were able to reframe these experiences. And one of the things you said is you figure out why it happened, looking back at it from a different place, you figure out why it happened, and then you reframe everything. But what if you can't figure out why it happened?
Do you know, if you pray to God, the universe, whatever your belief system is, for strength, the universe doesn't simply magic you strength. It gives you something that will help you build strength. If you ask for perseverance, the universe doesn't suddenly make you magically persevere through stuff. It gives you things to persevere through so that you can build perseverance. So when you're looking for the why is whatever it is you had to build to get through that. The why is what, the why is whatever you had to build to get through that situation. That thing is a gift. It just doesn't feel like a gift in the moment. And I think that one way that I tend to look at this is that when we play video games, we cherish the hardest levels. We cherish them. We come up to them and we cherish them. In life, for some reason, we do a U-turn, or many of us do U-turns when we come to the hardest levels. And that's not really a functional way to do stuff, in my opinion. I think that we are living in the safest, easiest, best times in the history of humanity. I'm 51 years old. If I was born in 1900, by the time I got to 20, I would have gone through the Spanish flu and World War I. By the time I was into my early 30s, I'd be dealing with the Great Depression. And then in my early 40s, I'd be fighting in World War II. By the time I was 56 years old, I'd be facing the Cuban Missile Crisis. If you were born in the first half of the century, it was a tough game. If you were born after 1950, it's been the easiest time in the history of the world to be alive. And yet more people are drug abusing, more people are drug addicted, more people are committing suicide than ever before. And that's because the easier life gets, the harder it is to live. And if we can learn to cherish that, if we can learn to understand that it is the adversity that we are facing and it is the challenges that we face, if we can face them like we would a video game, oh, look, it's the big boss. And instead of getting angry when we fail, we go, oh my God, what can I learn and how do I do it better the next time? If we took that video game philosophy and brought it into our lives, I don't know, we might see some change. And that's, I don't know which of the circumstances you're talking about, but I have had some moments where if I had not managed my state in that moment, it would have been a completely different outcome. And it would have created a completely different mental scar potentially as well.
Right.
Wow.
Well, I think that Facebook is trying to change the world into a big video game with its metaverse. See how that works out. But did you have a question?
And I have been a big Viktor Frankl fan for a long time. I've read his book several times, and it's so nice to hear somebody bringing back some of his thoughts. And one of the things that was always important to me is that he titles the book Man's Search for Meaning, but really you create meaning. You don't find it, you decide what the meaning is going to be for your life, and then you pursue it. And so I always found a lot of inspiration for that and try to make conscious decisions about what I pursue and kind of not just wait for it to come down to the universe, from the universe to me. So I really appreciate that. So you also have a program for entrepreneurs too. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
I observed something when I decided to start my first business, and I didn't start it out of any sense of bravery. I was working for a guy who, had a very tenuous relationship with honesty and ethics, and I ended up having to leave that job despite it being incredibly high paying and what have you. And then he refused to pay me the money he owed me, and I'm stuck in another country and I've got no money. And I relocated to the UK for this job, and now he messed me about and I quit and I have no money and I'm stuck and I've got a pregnant wife on the way, a dog, a car. I'm basically in quite a lot of trouble. And so I really thought about what to do, and I legally couldn't get a job because my work permit came with my employment. So I couldn't even go get a job. So I was really left with no choice but to start a business. But as I did that, I wanted to analyze what starting a business meant. And what I found is that for the majority of people, starting a business means creating themselves a job. That's what it really means. It means self-employment. And I would make this definition that if you have a job that requires you to be there, then you're self-employed. If you have a business that can operate completely standalone, irrespective of your geographic location or attention to the business, then you have an asset and you're a genuine business owner. And so I started my business with the intention of being a business owner and not being self-employed. Now, like everybody else, I quit one job, started the business. I now had 14 jobs. But over the next few years, I systematically resigned from each of those jobs until one day I resigned from the CEO position and didn't have to go to work anymore. I had about 35 employees. We were selling mobile computing solutions to logistics companies and retailers in the UK, and I was out. And then as a result of that, I was able to sell the business, because you see, it's very hard to sell a business where you're integral to the business, because even if you do sell it, you end up just becoming an employee for the people who bought it. In my case, I sold the business on a Monday and I left the country on a Tuesday. It was that simple. And I mean it. And so what I really dedicated myself to when I decided to get into teaching was to teach the principles of proper entrepreneurship. That how do you build a business that doesn't take over your life? The bigger your business gets, the more freedom financially and temporally you should be experiencing. But for the vast majority of business owners, it doesn't work that way. 4 out of 5, 80% of business owners will go out of business before they even get to 5 years. And of the other 20% that survive, most of them will survive through unbelievable hard work and sacrifice, letting their health slide, not spending enough time with their families. It's basically a form of self-imposed, administrative slavery of some kind. And so there's a distinction, and the distinction is build a business that's going to give you the freedom that you went into business for. And so ultimately that's what we aim to teach people.
That sounds great. And where can people find out more about this program?
Businessfreedom.com.
Okay. So we have to wrap up this segment, Eric. It's been absolutely phenomenal having you on the show. I hope you'll stay with us for the rest of the hour. And so we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. We just heard from the amazing Eric Edmeades, and we're now on to our fireside segment. And so, Elizabeth, tell us about what's been going on with Fireside.
Yes. Well, first I want to say normally Kenya Gipson would be here doing Power Move, but she had a corporate meeting today. So Fireside is my startup. It's a video directory of small businesses. I've been working on it for a while, and I recently joined a business advisory board group, Small Business US, and they told me to look at it a little bit differently than I have been, because I kind of got stalled a little bit because I couldn't find a good website person, but they're having me go back and look at some other things. And I think that the coaching is really helping a lot. And
Great.
I'm just going to keep moving forward from there. So as I've said before, if you can get coaching, and, Eric obviously has excellent coaching for entrepreneurs, it really helps an entrepreneur, because then you're not out there all by yourself.
Right. And it's a whole new game when you get into the entrepreneur business. And so having someone who's been through it and can give you a lay of the land, I think is invaluable. So
now I would like to move on to our next presenter, Renee Adams with Hoppy, Poppie. If you have kids, or you're going to have grandkids, or you know a kid, you want to hear what she has to say.
Just about everybody, right?
Or you act like a kid when you shouldn't. You want to hear what she has
when
to
you
say.
say that.
Yes. So Renee, please tell us about your business.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Richard. It is such an honor and pleasure to visit with you this morning. It's been a fun conversation and discussion. Eric's had great tips, and he's actually teaching emotional intelligence in his work. And that is what Hoppy and Poppie PinkCheeks is all about. Hoppy and Poppie PinkCheeks is a brand that teaches young children emotional intelligence. We also give a lot of tips and tools and education to parents on how to role model emotional intelligence in the home. The stars of the brand are Hoppy and Poppie. They are twin grasshoppers living on Bug Island, which is influenced by the river going through Breckenridge, Colorado. And they live on Bug Island with their friends, Maestro Humphrey Hummingbird, Queen Betty Bee, Walt Worm King, and Andy Ant, Dr. Spinner Spider, Humbo Hive, and many other fun characters. So it's a character and story-driven brand to teach children how to thrive in this world. Who does not want a child to thrive? And emotional intelligence is the pathway to see that come to reality.
That sounds great. So, what is emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is a scientifically based brain phenomenon, or science. It's a science, really, and it's only 30 years old. And so it's a new science. And now Yale and Harvard have done some amazing studies that show the long term benefits of emotional intelligence. There are several different models. I'm certified under Daniel Goleman as an emotional intelligence coach. And under Goleman's model, there are 12 different competencies. It is mostly down to four things, and that is self awareness, others awareness, relationship management. You learn skills of empathy and compassion, and it begins with a vocabulary of emotions for little ones. So that's why it is so teachable at a very young age, and that is teaching babies emotion vocabulary just like they learn ABCs and numbers and colors.
Wow, that's really fascinating. When you mention the words emotional, there are certain sort of trigger words or words associated with that. What are those? What are those words that you're talking about?
Yeah, the basic six emotions, which are on wristbands that come with the products, is happy, sad, scared, excited, angry, and calm. So those are very basic emotions. And then you expand the vocabulary and teach children all of the many, many, many other emotions that we all experience on a daily basis. And it really just becomes a matter of recognizing and becoming aware, just like Eric was saying with the relationship with food. It's you can't really manage yourself if you're not aware of what emotion it is that you're feeling. So many times we just go on autopilot through our day, and we experience emotions and we react to those without a lot of awareness of what is really happening.
So, so Eric, do you have any thoughts or comments?
First of all, I think it's about the most important work that we could be doing in the world, and that is guiding emotional intelligence. I really loved when Mr. Rogers made his speech to a Senate committee talking about that one of his shows costs about the same amount as 2 minutes of a cartoon. And 2 minutes of animation, and in the animation you've got a cat smacking a rat over the head, hurting each other the entire time. And he says the whole point of my show is to teach children about their emotions. So I think my first and most important thought is I think it's like among the most important work in the world that you're doing.
Yeah. So, Renee, I have a question. I agree. It's very important work that you're doing. How are you getting the word out about this? Are you taking it into schools?
I have a plan to take it into schools. I have not done that yet. So this is just launched this year. And right now I'm only selling on my website. So I'm really doing some test marketing and finding out what that um, main buyer profile is. I mean, obviously it's parents, it's teachers, it's grandparents. But right now I'm doing a digital marketing campaign, and it's sold on hoppypoppie.com. And I did create a coupon code for this show, iHeart. So if anyone gets on the
Okay.
website, use iHeart, and you'll get 15% off. But that's where it can be found currently, HOPPYPOPPIE.com.
So, how did you come up with this? Like, what was your motivation?
So my motivation goes deep. And I just recently started talking about this. And the owner of the digital marketing agency that I'm working with, Steve Pitchford out of LA, he asked me the question you just asked, Elizabeth. And for the first time, I went a lot deeper than I ever have before. And I shared that I'm a survivor of domestic violence. There's a lot of biases out there, just like towards mental illness would be another arena of something that a person deals with. And I have not talked about this a whole lot, but when I had children, I was absolutely determined to break the cycle of domestic violence. My father was abused, his father was abused, and it was a lineage that I grew up with. My childhood was a mix of love and chaos. It was very confusing growing up. And fortunately, in 1995, I went to a parent information night at my son's school. And Dr. Goldman had just published his book, Emotional Intelligence. It quickly hit #1 on New York Times bestseller list. I immediately, the next day, went out, bought that book, and I read it. And I was transformed by it. And then, so it wasn't a real conscious tie to that, why I started this. Actually, my daughter was really into musical theater, and we were on the way to one of her auditions, and we were talking about what she was experiencing, and we were just finishing up her voice warm-up tape. And I said, what would help you be calm right now? And she said, I think a book and a blanket. And that's what started my business. In fact, my original book, which is Calming Your Palm, way before Hoppy and Poppie, PinkCheeks. But I dropped her off, got her settled, went to a coffee shop, started writing my first children's book titled Calming Your Palm.
So
excellent. Yeah.
So you have Renee, you have an expert here, and with Eric, are there any questions that you'd ask him, given that you're still in the early stages of your business, that maybe he could help you with?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, how many hours do you have?
Well, it depends on which membership you sign up for.
Just getting on Eric's website last night, I thought, okay, well, I want to sign up for the course Business Freedom. I definitely want the public speaking course. No, but right now.
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what, Renee. You just make sure you get a hold of the producers, and I'll get Carly to just send you the public speaking one. It might get.
Oh,
that's so
nice.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I almost bought it on the website last night, but I wanted to wait and see if I could find a coupon code.
Oh, you just got one. It's my name.
I'm not expecting a freebie. I appreciate that. Right now, though, I am in the process of pitching the assets of the business to potential partners and buyers. So I'm open to all options at this point. And so my question would be, getting some guidance as far as what my next steps are with this brand.
Sure, I have so many thoughts. It really is like hours here, but I'm going to give you like the quick stuff. And knowing that it's recorded, I'm going to move fairly fast. But the first thing is a really powerful marketing principle that that every entrepreneur should understand, and that is that the degree to which you can explain your prospect's problem better than they can is the degree to which they will assume that you have the solution. So, in other words, when you take a look at what a lack of emotional intelligence looks like in a child, then when you're able to describe those symptoms really effectively, for example, in a YouTube video or an Instagram, TikTok, or whatever the case might be, any parent watching that, hearing you describe their life for them, like, my God, it's exactly like that, they will automatically assume that you have a solution for them. And that, so what that says is that one of the things you want to become really clear about, which I'm sure you already are, is what are the symptoms, what are the challenges faced by parents that have so far not been necessarily doing this very well. And so that they are able to recognize that there is a problem, that you understand the problem. And if you understand the problem better than them, then you will have a solution. That's a very, I think, very powerful thing for you to think about in terms of the way you are pitching directly to consumer, the way you're doing social media. When you're now talking about the way, I want to say this, I suppose, gently, but if you're, when you say, well, I'm pitching these different assets and I'm out talking to these people and I'm open to everything. let me just tell you, those are words that Steve Jobs never said. No, never in the history of ever did Steve Jobs said, I'd like us to develop a phone and I'm open to everything. What he said is, I want us to make a phone that is the cleanest, simplest, most like lines are perfect. He was retentive about, let's call it elegant simplicity. It had to be that way. One of the very first deals that he did with Wozniak, which actually broke up their friendship, was I think Nolan Bushnell from Atari said, if you can do this with this many chips in it, I'll give you this much money. And then he went to Woz and said, if you can do this with this many chips, we're going to get this much money. Only apparently he misrepresented the amount of money. But the point being is he had a very clear, stuck, this is what it's going to be. And all I want to say is that investors and partners and stuff don't want to hear that you're open to everything. They want to hear that you have a mission and purpose and that you are driven to achieving that, and that you will not sacrifice that mission and purpose even if you don't have enough money to feed your family. Like that you won't sell out. And that's what people really want to know when you're pitching. And add that to one more thing, and I could go on, but I'll stop for the next actual literal question. But whoever you're pitching, just think about this. And it's very important, no matter what you're pitching. The pitch is hardly really about your book, your product, your service, whatever. It isn't actually about that. It is about the investor, publisher, producer. It's actually about them. So I was, when I first started evaluating, writing books and stuff like that, I was like, what does a book proposal look like? And I assumed the book proposal was me talking about what's going to be in the book, why the book is useful, who the target audience is for the book. It's all about the book. And then Marcy Shimoff, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul and Happiness for No Reason, and Janet Atwood, who wrote The Passion Test and Hidden Riches, all New York Times bestsellers, showed me their book, gave me copies of their book proposals. And I was shocked to find in every case that the book proposal was simply a marketing plan that demonstrated that they were going to do everything possible to make sure their books were New York Times bestsellers. Think about that from the publisher perspective. Oh, this looks like a really great book. Oh, look, this book looks like it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. They're going to publish that one. And so what I suggest is that when you're pitching to anybody, the first thing to take a look at is what is interesting for them, and craft the pitch to make sure that it's interesting for them. So as an example, if you're looking at pitching for investors, you might have one investor who is just simply a very, meat and potatoes financial investor. Then when you put that pitch together, you're going to want to make sure that you've created a financial structure that demonstrates a rate of growth, that demonstrates good financial controls, that demonstrates good management of the business, and that they're going to get a return on their investment. That's what they're interested in. But then you might bump into this other investor, and this other investor is just all about kids. They've gotten to they're in their mid to late 60s. It's not really about the money for them so much anymore, but they really recognize that we have grown up right now with every child born after 1995 being in a situation of ultimately being over-coddled, and it's affecting our entire society at the moment. This investor wants to do something about that, believes that children need to have emotional intelligence. Then you now pitch them on the benefit to the planet of what your product is going to do, because that's what that investor is interested in. If you mix those pitches up, nobody's investing in anything. But most people do is create one generic pitch and offer that pitch to everybody and wonder why it's not working.
That is excellent advice. Thank you, Eric. Yeah.
Wow. I think that is the best pitch advice I've ever heard.
And we've heard a lot of pitches.
We've heard a lot of pitches and talked to a lot of investors. That is the best pitch advice.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, we're investors and we see a lot of, pitches, and it's really the people and their ability to connect that is really like the number one factor. And because you just want to know that person is going to have the drive and the passion to move it forward. And then the projects you choose are based on other things. Maybe it's financial or social, as Eric just mentioned. And but I mean, that's really wonderful. Any more questions? We have time for one more.
Renee, do you have something you would want to hear about from Eric?
Yeah, Eric, I would love to know, how do you manage the timing of your businesses? You have been in and out of a number of very different businesses that aren't even related to one another. And I'm fascinated by that. And I would love to know if you have any input on timing.
Yeah, I do. I have a couple different thoughts for you. I think that the problem for most of us is that we start a business in an area where we have high competency. And as a consequence of that, we end up doing a lot. And we have to remember that in school, we were taught some very dangerous things in school. Here's one of the things that most of us were taught to some degree in school. We were taught that that getting help was called cheating. And so most, like unless you were put onto an assignment that specifically instructed you to work with another student, which by the way, then just drove the students to compete for who put the most effort in. Most of school, you were taught that if you got collaboration, then you were cheating. And the average entrepreneur still runs their life like that. They don't ask for help. They don't recruit enough people. They don't delegate very effectively because at the deepest 6-year-old core of themselves, they learned that if they didn't do it themselves, they don't get the credit. And that's a huge answer to what happens to people's time as entrepreneurs. Another dangerous thing that we learned in school was that we should put our effort where we have no skill. And what I mean by that is you got a report card and it showed that you were rocking it in math. You got an A+ at math, but you were kind of not doing so well with English. What does the teacher write? Needs more focus on English. So all the way through 12 years of school, you kept having your attention diverted to the thing that you weren't that good at. Now, I'm not saying that you didn't need to also build your strength up there, but let's take a look at the way the Soviet Union won all those medals. Okay, there may have been some drugs, but what they also did is when they saw a 4-year-old girl walking down the icy sidewalk in Moscow, slip, fall, do a pirouette and land on her feet, they signed her up for ice dancing. And that's all she did for the next 10 years is ice dancing. They didn't care if she understood math. Now, that's another extreme. I'm not saying it's right, but I believe that after 12 years of having your attention redirected to your lack of proficiency, now what happens is entrepreneurs often do the aspects of their businesses that they're not like. I know that there's all these entrepreneurs that are doing their own accounting, and they can't split a bill at a restaurant. So I don't know what the hell they're doing their own accounting. And then the last thing is about school, and this is a really tough one, and it has a lot to do with our psychology, self-esteem, and public speaking. And that is that we were learned that the harder we make something look, the more reward there is for us. And let me explain that by example. We take 2 children doing a presentation for the class and the teachers and the assembly. And the one child just rocks it. Great presentation, rocked the PowerPoint, had the props, just really rocked it and told good stories, gets an applause. Hey, so good. Then the next kid goes up there wobbling and terrified, and you can see that their mouth is all dry from the fear. And then the technology doesn't quite work, but they finally get it. And then the child has tears in their eyes and stumbles their way through the presentation. Which child gets the most love from the teacher after? The child that struggled. And what does every student in the room learn at that point? If I make it look easy, I get less reward. And so all of those things combine to set entrepreneurs up to act like it's harder than it really is, to fail to delegate and ask for help where they really need it, and to put their focus on jobs that they really shouldn't be doing. That's where the time goes. That's the problem with the time. So here's my advice for you to fix all that. You write an organizational chart on the wall of your business, but it has no names on it of any kind. It just has every conceivable role in the business. We call it a role map. It has the CEO, that's you. It has the CFO, I'm guessing that's you. It has the COO, I'm pretty sure that's you. The creative director is probably you. The HR manager is you. Then there's somebody cleaning the office space, I think that's you. And I'm kidding because I don't know what other people you have on your team so far, but that's generally how it works. Then what you do is circle each of the boxes, red for things that you need to stop doing as quickly as possible. Green or yellow for the things that you can do for a little while, but you got to get out of them. And then green for the stuff that long-term you want to stop doing that. And that will create a roadmap for you to get very clear about the type of people that you're looking for and the type of proceduralization you need to do in your business. You will now know that if accounting is circled red, you better start documenting how your accounting is happening so that when you hire somebody, they know how to do the job.
Perfect.
Wow.
That was amazing. And
Great real world advice.
great practical real world advice. And it's really how you see and how you organize those pieces of your business that are really it's really a strategic approach that Eric has provided with us.
Eric, you are just an incredible source of information and wisdom for entrepreneurs and everybody else too. And we look forward to talking to you some more. We're going to have to go to break now. This has been a great segment. Renee, what is your website again?
It is hoppypoppie.com. HOPPYPOPPIE.com.
Excellent.
And thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric, for that last.
You're very welcome.
Excellent.
So, listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our incredible, mind-blowing guest, Eric Edmeades. I mean, this has just been fabulous. If you missed any of it, our podcast comes out tomorrow. I'm probably going to listen to it 5 times so I don't miss anything, but we'll be right back. Well, welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest, Eric Edmeades. Wow, real world, incredible advice for entrepreneurs. If you missed anything he said, then you should be sorry.
I'm totally blown away. And as soon as we get done here, I'm going to go to his website and probably sign up for everything.
Oh, good. We can do it together. But you can catch what he said here on our podcast tomorrow. But now I want to introduce our next presenter. And what a brilliant idea. Oh my gosh. Men, you never have to look like a slob in your shirt again. So, Bryan Rhode with shopacumen.com. Please tell us what you've created.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, Richard. Thanks for having me. Listening to Eric was incredible. And I'm actually going to try and take on some of the points that he already shared with us when I talk about ACUMEN Apparel. So we are a cutting edge new apparel brand. And right now we are focused on dress shirts, and we have a patent pending technology which helps solve a problem. And that problem is keeping your shirt tucked in. So for most men, you know that dress shirts and a lot of your apparel has slimmed down over the last couple of years, where 10 years ago, 15 years ago, things were baggy and big. And so we've developed some technology that really helps these amazing high quality dress shirts stay tucked in and look super sharp. I was a Marine earlier in my career, and for those of your listeners who have an image of a Marine in dress uniform who looks super sharp, there's a reason for that. And we've taken some of those lessons that I learned in the Marine Corps and applied them to these products. But fundamentally, our ethos and what this brand is about is we want to solve problems for men. This is a brand for men and about men. We want to equip you to go out into the world and win. We want to solve your problems so you can solve the world's. So this is just the first of what we hope will be many apparel products. And in each apparel product, we not only want to deliver amazing quality and amazing style, we want to solve a problem that you have. So if you're going in front of the board of directors for a huge presentation, if you've got a key sales pitch or a job interview for that job that you've been dreaming about forever, that you're going to look amazing. And if you look amazing and you know that you are squared away, you're going to go in there and you're going to rock it. And that's what we want to equip you to do. And we're new. We're trying to get customers to come on board and help us not only sell products and get our products out there, but really build this brand and really empower guys. And I just don't think there's enough brands out there that really focus on that. And that's what we hope to do.
Well, 3 cheers for you. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking on that challenge. And I really hope that you succeed with this. I mean, I can tell you're already succeeding because I've looked at your website. It's absolutely fantastic, and I would encourage our audience to check it out. It's www.shopacumen.com, right? ACUMEN.com. And so it's very nice. It's very subtle. It's and it's very masculine. And
So can I describe what it actually is, the one that you're selling right now? So
yeah,
there's a shirt with a little hidden loop inside, and there's a strap that goes from the hidden loop in the shirt to a little loop at the top of your sock. So you have something extra that holds your shirt down and holds your sock up at the same time and keeps you looking crisp, right?
That's absolutely right. And so it's called a shirt stay. And there are regular shirt stays in the market, but this one is specially designed. And again, we have a patent pending on the entire outfit, which we call the ACUMEN set. And it really works. It keeps your shirt down and it keeps your sock up. We talked earlier before this podcast about some of the no-nos. You see guys will go do an interview and they'll cross their leg and their socks hanging down by their ankle and half their leg showing. Or, literally yesterday I was pulling out of a lunch meeting and I saw a gentleman in business casual walking with some of his colleagues, had a business shirt on, and the entire back of it was untucked and hanging out. Now, you don't want to go into that important business meeting, or you don't want your boss seeing you walking down the street looking like that, particularly if you're going to be in front of clients or something. And so that's the problem that we're trying to solve. And that's our first product. These dress shirts are amazing. They try to solve problems in and of themselves too. We have 4 different categories. We have an executive category, which is sort of your more traditional office shirt. We have a disruptor category, which is sort of your fashion forward shirt that you might take clients out on the town with, or just for a date night. You still want to do well at that as well. We have an entrepreneur category. The shirts are stretchy, super breathable, great for a casual jeans Friday. And then we have our Renaissance Man category, which is tuxedo shirts. So if you've got that big event, a wedding or something else, you want to make sure you look super sharp. And that's what we're trying to do. And we have some follow-on products after that. Our next release is going to be an undershirt. And it's made of a super soft modal material. It's cut really well. I'm sure there are many guys out there who are like me, who used to buy Fruit of the Loom cotton undershirts that got bunched up underneath your shirt. You washed it once. It was a third of the size of when you bought it. Hangs out around your waist. So we're trying to solve that problem with a form-fitting.
I've seen that.
Well,
I've experienced it a lot. I would always be trying to push it down. And once it's up, it's really hard to get it back down.
And Bryan makes a good point, because if you see your shirt hanging out, what do? Tuck it in, you stick your hand down in your, so you have to go to the bathroom or something. Yes. Otherwise you put yourself in a very awkward position.
So exactly. I think awkward these are great products. Yeah, I think these are great products. Eric, what do you think Bryan should do to get every man to wear these?
Bryan, I've got a couple thoughts. One is, you said in your intro, I'm addressing the problem of keeping your shirt tucked in. And I don't think that that's the right wording. And I just want to offer you a reason, is that when you say keeping your shirt tucked in, the image I get is of a tucked in shirt or of a man tucking his shirt in. Really, the problem that you're solving is of the untucked shirt. Now, I know this is a subtlety, right? It's a very small, subtle thing. But when you talk about elevator pitches, or we talk about first impressions, people create pictures from the words you say. So if you say we're solving the problem of the shirt that sneaks out of your pants and untucks itself, that creates a very clear image of the actual problem, where the problem of the keeping the shirt tucked in, you're actually giving them the solution to the problem. I think it creates a little bit of a different impression. But then the other thing is, so I really think that there's some fun stuff that you could do here. One thing I would seriously consider is a great social media campaign. Give away some of your systems. But the social media campaign is, tell me about your most embarrassing clothing misfires. Get people to report them all to you, because first thing is, it'll create great social media fodder, right? People will be answering, which of course the algorithms love interactivity on your feeds. But the other thing is, you're going to get some great stories in there that are going to become your marketing. They're going to become your marketing. Somebody's going to write this story about the time they went on this date, and they thought the date went really well. They thought it went really well, but then at the end of the date, it all didn't quite work, and then she never called back. And then he looks back at a picture that they took from the date and sees that his shirt was coming out through his fly, and it was like that the whole night. And now he's starting to think that's what cost him the date. And he said, you're going to collect stories like that, which are going to do exactly what they did for you. They created an emotional response. Emotional response means memory and action, and boom, off you are to the races. One more thing.
Yes.
I mean, more if you've got questions, but one more thing is, I want you to think about, and when we're on radio, we're trying to get the words in per minute, and all the you're trying to be concise, but there's a vast difference between the relaying of an experience, the relaying of facts, and the telling of a story. The one tries to give people a bunch of information or describe a circumstance to them in order to get the data there. But the truth is, without emotion is the glue that causes memory to stick. If there's no emotion, there's no memory, no action. So now what that means is that when you are, doing your pitch, and you're like, for example, right now you use an abstracted, well, it's like I've heard stories about guys sitting there and they cross their thing and their socks up their leg. That's okay. That's not bad. But it would be all the more powerful if either you really painted the picture so that they got it, or that you told it as a firsthand experience, or a firsthand experience relayed to you. So something like this. What we're really trying to do for people is trying to stop them from having embarrassing clothing malfunctions. For example, a buddy of mine goes to a meeting. He's there, the meeting's going really, really well, everything's fine, but his lower back's hurting a little. You know how that happens. You're sitting in that chair and his lower back's hurting a little. So he does the only natural thing. He lifts his foot up And as he gets his foot like halfway to his knee, he realizes his sock is down, his hairs are out, and it's like, and then he's like, what do I do now? If I put my leg down, I'm acknowledging the problem. If I lift my leg up, everybody's going to see it. And all of a sudden, he can't even think about the meeting he's in anymore. He's so, you don't want that to happen. If you don't want that to happen, you have the solution.
Right.
Excellent advice. I was telling them before we started, I watched that Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah. How many tens of millions of people watched that? And he's got his leg crossed and half his leg's hanging out because his sock's wrapped around his ankle. Well, you do not want that to happen to you. That's why you want to buy an shirt and set and socks. But that is terrific advice, Eric. I mean, you articulated it so incredibly well. And now I'm going to have to go through this podcast another 3 or 4 times and just make sure I get every pearl out.
And I think another thing you could say, because like Richard is like, oh, men don't really care so much about this, that, or the other thing, you can say, some of you men out there may not care if your hairy leg is sticking out, but I can guarantee you the women do. And really, like,
it's so funny that you say that, because you know what, as some of my friends have bought this product, some of them didn't wear shirt stays or weren't in the military and don't have familiarity with the system and what we're trying to do, but their wives get it instantly. They look at it and say, oh yeah, you need that. Your shirt's always untucked. And so, ladies, you are some of our best customers because you understand immediately. And, we're trying to get the message out to them as well. Even though it is a brand about men and for men, we know that a lot of guys don't necessarily enjoy shopping. And a lot of guys may be a little bit resistant to the issues that they have, whether it's an untucked shirt or socks hanging out at your ankle, and don't take those steps to really just improve, how you present to the world. And that's what we want to do for you. We want to take the guesswork out of that, so that you put on our system, you put on our set, you use our product, it's all taken care of. You can focus on what you want to do. You can focus on solving the world's problem.
So Eric, do you have one last comment for Bryan before we have to sign off on the segment?
Yeah, Bryan, there's a system of marketing that we teach at Business Freedom, and it's called inceptive or inception marketing, which is kind of based on the movie. The idea in the movie Inception was you put somebody to sleep, got them into a dream state, embedded the idea in their dream, and when they woke up, they'd have the idea. The truth is, really good marketing can do that. And the trouble these days is that the biggest problem in all marketing these days is noise. There's just so many people fighting for the attention of your prospects, right? So that's the biggest challenge. How do you cut through the noise? And so in inception marketing, what we teach people is that you don't try to cut through the noise. You just don't, you create noise they want to hear. And so here's an example of what I might do in your case. I might write like this phenomenal article about, like successful dating strategies for men. And this may sound way off track, but it would start off with success. And I just want you to consider for a moment, there's the average guy flipping through GQ. And on one side, there's the how to keep your shirt tucked in. On the other side, there's how to meet girls and get them to like you. Which article are they going to read, right? I'm not noise anymore. I'm the noise they want to hear. So now the article goes on and it says, here's some things about how you can do conversation openers with women. And these are some of the, there's all kinds you can do the research. There's lots of great advice about how to break the ice and how to stimulate relationships with women. But then you would say, now, having given you this, 5 keys to how to date successfully, or 5 keys of how to meet the future Mrs. You, or whatever it is. Then you get to like the 5th one and you're like, now here's one thing that you might not know about women is that women are detail oriented in a way that men can never understand. I'll tell you something. Men often make a mistake of polishing only the fronts of their shoes. And then they walk away and the women notice that they didn't polish the back. That's how detail oriented women can be. Women notice pupil dilation. When you're telling a story and your pupils dilate, they see stuff like that. We just don't have that level. But what that also means is that they notice when you're walking uncomfortably because one of your socks has slipped into your shoe, or they notice when your shirt is skewed off and not tucked in properly. They notice those things, even if not consciously, unconsciously, and they communicate as discomfort and lack of confidence in you. And that is absolutely going to stop you. Now, you see what's happened is I haven't sold a damn thing. I have created a market.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
I'm going to need to... I'm going to hire you, Eric. I mean, you actually. I mean,
I feel like
that's incredible.
On this show, we have gotten Yeah, thousands of dollars worth of excellent advice on this show from you, Eric, just in this short
Yeah.
amount of time. I can't imagine what happens when people go on your website and take your courses, but I'm going to find out. So, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time for this show, but we will be back next week with another show. But in the meantime, you are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our just mind-blowing guest, Eric Edmeades. Every entrepreneur needs to go to his website. I am not kidding. But we'll be right back.
What an incredible show, huh? I mean, I can't.
Yeah, that
This
was
is
amazing.
like, I'm just been totally blown away, and I absolutely love Eric's advice. He's so perceptive, and he really understands business. And
So, yes, so Eric Edmeades, I've never met anybody like him. And I have checked out some of his website, but I'm going to go check out his other website. So you can find getwildfit.com. And I love the logo he has with it. He has the caveman going up to walking, then the guy sitting at the desk, and then finally the fit guy at the end getting back up from the desk. And then businessfreedom.com. And then if you want something simple, it's Eric with a C.ee. Type that into your browser. Eric with a C.ee. So ERIC.ee. And honestly, this man knows so much about entrepreneurism and marketing. It just blows me away. And then we had Renee Adams with Hoppy Poppie. So she's just starting out, but she's really got her heart and soul invested in teaching children emotional intelligence and helping the world be a better place, because kids will hopefully grow up in a better state of mind.
Yep, I've looked at her characters; they're just adorable, and I'm sure that your children, grandchildren, or neighbors' children will love every single thing about her program.
And her website is hoppypoppie.com. That's HOPPYPOPPIE.com. And she's got books and little stuffed creatures, and it's very cute. I would encourage you to go. And then finally, we had Bryan Rhode, last but certainly not least, with shopacumen.com. His company is ACUMEN, ACUMEN. And he's got one product on there now, which helps men keep, well, more than one product. I'm sorry. He's got sets, he's got shirts, he's got socks, but he's got a set that helps men keep their shirts looking nice as they wear them throughout the day. And it's so innovative and it's so very cool. And his goal is just, I think, to give men more confidence and make them succeed because they're confident about themselves wearing these clothes that they know make them look good. So,
And as he says, it's a brand for men. So
Yeah,
definitely
but
check out his website.
he's also very generously given a discount code. Use the discount code PASSAGE when you go to shopacumen.com and get 40% off.
All right, so that's about it for us here at Passage to Profit. We'll be back next week. But before we go, I'd like to ask Eric if he has any thoughtful parting words for our audience.
So how long? And you got about an hour?
I wish. Yeah.
Very briefly, I'll say this, that I believe that entrepreneurship is the opportunity to work a little harder and a little smarter than other people for a short amount of time in order to create a life that other people only get to dream about. And it really is like that if you do it properly. And one key to doing it properly, which I can already tell that that both Renee and Bryan have this in them, and I can feel it just in the interview, in the conversation that we've had here, is that you can take a look at any business owner and you can create, in a sense, a pie chart of their motivation, what is driving them. And I can tell you right now that if money is the largest slice of the pie chart, they'll do okay. They may well do okay, but they won't be happy. And what I mean by that is that they will keep making decisions based on financial ends and not based on any sense of mission, purpose, or contribution to the planet. And so they will get short-term reward, but not long-term fulfillment. The more you can make that pie chart about the greater good that you are creating for your employees, for your customers, for the greater world, the more you make properly guided decisions. And that is passion, and that is passion to profit. That is how that works. And I will just say this about my creation. I've had a number of different businesses, and my pie chart has been my very first business. The pie chart was money. I was 20 whatever years old, and the primary motivation was about money. Then as I got involved in other businesses, passion started to get more and more into it. And by the time I started WildFit, I literally didn't care about money. It didn't matter to me. I had money. I started that business never expecting it to make money. I started it as a hobby because it had to be done, because I saw so much pain and suffering in the world around me. And of course, the twist of that is that no business that I've ever created has made more money. It's been the most successful brand I've ever created, but I created it for the passion. And so I just want to suggest to everybody out there, the higher your purpose behind your entrepreneurial drive, the more driven you will feel, the more attraction you will create, and the more fulfillment and success you'll experience.
Wow. Well, that's very profound, Eric. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time and for sharing your thoughts with our audience. We have to leave now, but we'll be back next week with another fantastic passage to profit. Keep the cards, letters, and texts coming in. And we love our audience, and we hope you love us back. But before we go, I'd like to say a special thanks to our crew, our producer, Noah Fleischman, our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey, our video editor, Chatterboss, and the whole iHeart team. You're listening to Passage to Profit on iHeartRadio, WOR 710, the voice of New York.